Hi, my dear Astro family. So today we are going to be talking about Neptune. As Neptune is moving onto its anaretic degree, that's going to be happening on the 3rd of May in all major time zones. Now, I made a video about anaretic degrees a few years ago, so I would like you to listen to them. I give you quite a thorough breakdown of what I feel like an anaretic degree means in your natal chart. But of course, we are talking about transit. So let me give you some technical information to start with. Do you have any planets between 27 to 29 degree of the mutable signs? Typically a personal planet or the 4 major asteroids I would like you to focus on. So we're talking about the Sun, Moon, or any of the angles, ascendant, descendant, IC, MC, Venus, Mars, Mercury, or Jupiter and Saturn. I don't necessarily urge you to look at, for example, the outer planets, just because they are extremely slow moving. So that's going to be more of a generational influence. For example, my Neptune is on 28 degree of Sagittarius, because I was born in 1983. So those people who were born 1982 to 1984, most likely we'll have the Neptune square Neptune. So that might not be significant on a personal level, but the society will affect you somehow. Okay, so that's the technical piece of information here. And if you want to be working with the 4 major asteroids, you can also look at those as well, and that would be Vesta, Ceres, Pallas Athene. So let's break it down because we've got quite a few things to cover here. So Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces, 2011, in April. It was there for a little while, and then it shifted back into the sign of Aquarius. But finally, in 2012, around February, it went into the sign of Pisces. That is where Neptune has been since. Now, being on 29 degree is a key astrological event. This is one of the reasons why May is a huge month. We're going to have Neptune on an anaretic degree. Jupiter is moving into the sign of Gemini. We've got Pluto just turning retrograde on the 2nd of May. So we're going to have some major reflections to do and probably to do some type of closure. But I'm going to talk about that in a short while. Now, and then Neptune is going to be moving into the sign of Aries in 2025 for a little while, then moves back into the sign of Pisces again, and then eventually 2026, that's when Neptune is gonna entirely move into the sign of Aries and will be there till 2039. But I'm gonna give you the anaretic degrees just in a second. Now, to honor Neptune, I'm preparing actually a webinar this weekend about Neptune in love and infidelity. So this is going to be taking place on Saturday at 2 p.m. Hungarian Budapest time. So if you are curious about how Neptune plays a significant role in your love life and why it is connected to infidelity, you might want to join. And I did another super cool thing. I have made 3 webinars so far about Neptune. So I put them in a bundle and then you can buy them together. One of them is Neptune as the higher octave of Venus. I'm showing you in that webinar the differences as well as the similarities between these 2 planets. Then Neptune as our false belief systems, why we are the culprit of victimizations, and 2 rulers of Pisces, Jupiter and Neptune. So again, there I show you the differences as well as the similarities between the 2 planets. So if you really want to know what Neptune talks to you about in your chart, you can actually purchase these free webinars. And on top of that, I have been running a 12-house course as well, where it's a 6-class series where I tell you the meaning of the 12th house, the planets in the 12th house, as well as the signs on the 12th house cusp. So let's get started. Now, by the way, we will be working a lot more with Neptune in the future, just because it's on anaretic degree. So for example, Neptune rules over our political belief system. So next month I will be preparing a webinar, why Neptune is so connected to politics. Many people would not think that, so I'm going to prove that to you. But now let's focus on Neptune on an anaretic degree. Anaretic degree is when a planet hits the 29th degree of the sign. And this is pretty much of a stopover. It's a final test. It's a summary point, what we have learned about that particular sign. So this is going to be a major shift for many of us on a collective level. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, on a personal level as well, especially if you have got planets between 27 to 29 degree of the mutable signs. And those are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. You might want to be looking at your progress chart as well, or the solar arc chart, because Neptune might be going through a personal planet of yours there. For example, in my case, I've got the progress Sun and the transit Neptune conjunction. So this could pretty much talk to us about Sun and Neptunian themes, for example, in our life. So some of the bits you need to be watching out with Neptune. What is real and what is not real in your life? First of all, localize the Piscean cusp in your chart. I personally use whole sign house system, but whichever system works for you the best. And you have to be learning, or you had to learn in the last 13 years about that particular cusp in your chart. So for example, Neptune has been going through my first house, which is the perception over your appearance, your outlook, something to do with your identity. Who am I? What am I meant to be doing, and so forth. But the first house can talk to you about your attitude and how aware you are of the self. So I'm not going to run through all the houses today because that would not be the aim, but I'm going to be preparing a video for my Patreons, and that's going to be uploaded on their YouTube membership channel. And if you want to do that, you can also consider that. So in what area of life did you deceive yourself? So my personal experience is, for example, that unfortunately I had the belief system that the look counts so significantly that I'm only going to be having a partner once I look apart and I'm the sexiest version of myself. And I had to experience it throughout the years that even when I looked good, I didn't have the partner. And the Neptune is so much to do with your karmic ties. That's the modern ruler of the 12th house, and the 12th house is pretty much the reason for your existence. And often what happens is that you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel because you have got the ego in the way. And you see the ego, but you cannot see what is behind that. So imagine that we've got a tunnel and then it's getting blocked by a hurdle, and then you are unable to see that there is beautiful, I don't know, field over there with flowers and so forth, because you cannot see. Your eyes are somehow shut. So that would be the Neptunian energy on 29 degree. We are still not able to decide whether something ahead of us is real or not real. So one of the lessons of Neptune is to be able to set boundaries, to see reality. But Neptune is the fog. It's kind of like walking in the fog and the clarity is not there. You might think that you are absolutely clear about your goals and about who you are or about your love stories and so forth. 29 degree Neptune is going to prove you wrong. It's going to tell you that what you have seen is not what it is. So this is about a little bit of a self-analyzation in a way. What area of life have I been foggy? What did you learn about the Piscean cusp in your chart? Now, Neptune stations retrograde on, okay, so let me give you the dates here, first of all. So, sorry about that. So we've got Neptune going onto the Anaretic degree on the 3rd of May. And it's going to be on the 29th degree until September 3rd, 2024. Now, this is really interesting because Pluto will be retrograde until the 2nd of September as well. Interesting. Then Neptune leaves the 29 degree, goes back until 27 degree. And then it's going to go back on the 3rd of March, 2025 onto the 29th degree until March 30th. and it's going to move into the sign of Aries, and it's going to shift back into the sign of Pisces and hitting the 29-degree again, October 27, 2025, and being there until January 26, 2026. So those would be the very important dates here to remember. Now, so Neptune is the planet that is correlated to spiritual evolution. And what spiritual evolution means for me is the realization that we are all the same. We are the same flesh and blood, and we should be more accepting towards diversity. And I think diversity is going to be a major topic, because Neptune and Saturn will be meeting on 0 degree in 2026. And probably it's going to be quite a challenge, because Neptune is about oneness and Aries is about individuality. And we've got Saturn, who is going to be joining this combination. And unfortunately, Saturn is the fall ruler of Aries. So it can go really wrong. But I'm going to make a separate video about that, because that's a major topic. So we need to realize that we are all the same. We should not be differences between people, such as judging people because of their color, race, or age, or all these type of things. This is about discrimination act. And I can imagine that the 29th degree of Pisces will be changing the discrimination act. So this is one of the first predictions I would like to make with this one. Or we can actually call it as the Equality Act, which interestingly enough started at the end of 2010. So just when Neptune was on 29 degree of Aquarius and was ready to shift into the sign of Pisces. So I think there will be certain type of changes around that. Now, you know, I would say that as soon as Jupiter moves into the sign of Gemini, and then Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini, definitely diversity is going to be a major topic. I also feel that because Neptune is telling us that we all come from the same place, we all have the same stuff flushed down on the toilet. So why on earth would we, you know, differentiate people because of their own belief system, or maybe their gender, or political views, and so forth? Now, you might think that, okay, Pisces and Neptune would rule discrimination. Not necessarily. It's more Virgo related, by the way. But remember, Pisces is opposing actually Virgo. So a lot of the themes that are going to be popping up in our lives is the Virgo themes. I also feel like with this Neptune, it's the realization that often the ego holds us back from doing things. I think that will be a major focus for many of us, or maybe every single of us. So Neptune is the representation of psychology. And maybe the psychology is going to be regulated. I'm very certain, by the way, that astrology will be regulated eventually. Maybe astrological schools are going to be accredited and opened, and therefore it's going to be somehow limited how much information you can put on social media about astrological topics and so forth. Also, I feel like this Neptune is reminding us that we all become dust eventually. So there is no need to hold on to the material stuff anymore. And, you know, that's very interesting, because when you think about the first house, and then the 12th house is here, and then we've got the second house here. So the first house is sandwiched between the second and the 12th. The second house is your material possession, while the 12th house is something to do with your eternal possession, or we can also call it as your intellectual possessions. So we're realizing that memories or experiences count more than how much money we've got in our bank account. Now, I know it is easier said than done. I'm not stupid, and I'm not in, you know, la la land, because I know we need money to survive. But what we realize is that or what we should realize with this aspect is that many of us are holding back from certain type of experiences, or love, for example, which is such a Neptunian topic anyway, because we just focus on work, 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 work. So hopefully what this 29 degree of Neptunian Piscean energy will bring is certain type of regulations around working time or working conditions. Why am I talking about regulations quite a lot? You might be wondering, because neither Neptune nor Pisces are connected to regulations. That's more of a Saturnian theme, right? Well, the last 4 degree of Pisces is a Saturnian territory. So this is the clashes of the giants. We are already receiving certain type of pictures of what to expect from the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, because Neptune have been hovering through 26 to 29 degrees since 2023 April. So we receive some type of kind of visions and messages what to expect from that Saturn and Neptune conjunction as well. So I think this will be, the material possession will be a major topic. Also, we are all connected on a level. So, that's a big message, and I've spoken enough about that. Neptune also rules charities and compassion. So I think there will be certain type of secrets revealed about charities, how they function, how much money they put into their pocket, and so forth. A little bit of a corruption about charities, maybe who is stealing the money and all those type of stuff. Unfortunately, I think it will be a topic. Why do I think that? Is because Pluto will be going back into the sign of Capricorn, and that's going to be happening later at the end of the year, the second part of the year, or in the 4th quadrant of the year, to be precise. And it's going to be kind of making a sextile to Neptune. So I feel like the corruptions around charities will be revealed to us. Always imagine the 29 degree as the final exam of something. So because Neptune is the collectedness as well as the belief system, so it's going to be testing your belief system. I think it's about awakening from La La Land. It's about nothing is like what it looks like. So it's going to be kind of like a wake-up call that what you believe doesn't exist, or what you did not believe actually exists. It is, with Neptune on the 29 degree, is kind of like, the blurred vision, which needs to the veil needs to come off. And Neptune being on that Saturnian territory, I think this is about working extremely hard to eliminate the boundaries, to dissolve the blockages and the fears. Unfortunately, in a negative way, I would say there is going to be some major floods happening within the next 6 months, surely. But I'm going to give you certain dates when to pay attention a little while. So just stay till the very end. Also, I think because Neptune is so emotional, in an emotional sign, so this is kind of like an emotional flood. Many people will be extremely sensitive, and we're going to feel sorry for people, most likely due to some natural disasters. Neptune is like when the body is possessed by good or evil spirits. It doesn't matter whether it's good or evil. It's just about the recognition of the fact that, what, we all have got the past, we all have got the future, and then we live in the present at the moment. And we have got those guardian angels, and we have got our demons to fight with. Why am I talking about fights? Is because the very last aspect Neptune is making is a conjunction to Mars. So this has taken place on the 29th, 30th of April, depending on what time zone you are in. And that's very much about fighting against demons. And being careful, because sometimes we are fighting away the good ones as well. Again, not seeing the good or the bad side of people. And idealistically speaking, in my opinion, there is no difference between evil spirits and good spirits. They both have got their agendas. Also, I would say that with Neptune, it's kind of like walking through the fog. So this is the master of illusions. I tend to call Neptune as the rotten apple. It looks beautiful from the outside, and then when you bite into it, unfortunately, you see all those maggots and all those type of stuff, and which makes you throw it away. So because Neptune in relationships, for example, act like, everything looks brilliant and this person is the greatest ever and so forth. But throughout the relationship, you realize you have been scammed. And what Neptune teaches you is that you were not scammed. You had an idealistic version of the self projected onto someone else, believing that they are what they are. And unfortunately, they proved you to be wrong because they are not what you have expected, which leads to a certain type of disappointment in the end. So you need to be looking at in your chart the Piscean cusp, and why do you attract the liars in that particular area of life? But also, how did you deceive yourself? Neptune is the planet of white lies. Pluto is more of the harmful lies. So don't look at it as in, someone is deliberately lying to you, for example. This is more to do with, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to get into some type of argument and all those type of things. So I'd rather tell you kind of like a fancy story, which is believable, so that we are not, we are the right place in a way. But most likely, why did you lie to yourself? Also, Neptune is connected to guilt as well. So do you feel somehow guilty in regards to the cusp of that Pisces part of your chart? So, for example, Neptune has been going through my first house. Do I feel guilty when I eat? And I do. Thank God I would have never got to the level to kind of make myself throw up. But I'm going to be completely honest. When I was so low, I was thinking about it. Neptune is connected to drugs and alcohol and all those type of things. And I wasn't an alcohol addict, but I was drinking once a week. I got smashed. I went out partying. Because with Neptune, something is missing in your life. So what do you miss in that particular area of your chart? Maybe it's in the second house, you miss having money, or maybe it's the seventh house, you miss having a romantic connection to someone. But often, instead of with Neptune, very interesting in relationship-wise, and this is something I'm going to talk about in the webinar, how Taurus, Libra, and Neptune are connected, because those are the three major signs that are talking to us about relationship. And Taurus is self-love, while Libra is about loving others. And with Pisces, we are unified as a couple. So often the unification process goes wrong with Neptune is because there is no clear communication between two people. Also, in the mundane level, Neptune rules pharmaceutical companies. So probably they are going to be revealed. Something is going to get revealed about them. Maybe their real intention or how they do certain type of research and so forth. On a personal level, this Neptune would ask you to look at why you belittle yourself. Why do you need drugs or alcohols? What type of pain are you trying to numb? I would say that there is a possibility, for example, that there is going to be a legislation coming up around drugs or alcohol or these kind of like entertainment industries in a way. And maybe this is connected to smoking, actually. Neptune rules smoking as well. So weed and the normal smoking too. So probably we're going to see some type of legislations around that, maybe in the whole world rather than just certain segments. I know there was a recent research done in US. October, I mean, it was in 2021 on top of my head in October, where it was said that 82.1% of the US population lives under a ban on smoking in workplaces, restaurants, bars, and so forth. But we have got the remaining 18%. So probably maybe it's going to become 100% or it's going to get closer to 99 overall. Also, I would say that maybe because Neptune is connected to YouTube and social media, again, very interesting that when you start thinking about, YouTube, and YouTube pretty much started blooming in 2011. So it could talk to us about the end of the YouTube channel, or I cannot really imagine that, to be honest. But what I can imagine is that there is going to be regulations around how to use YouTube. Now, surely I can imagine that. Also, this could talk to us about what to advertise, what not to advertise. What usually drives me nuts, to be frank, in Hungary, I'm not there, but when I go there, every second advertisement is a pharmaceutical advertisement. And I kind of feel like that this is making people sick as well. And it shouldn't be that way. And hopefully someone is going to realize that and then kind of put a stop to it. Neptune rules oil industry. So I think there is going to be a major crisis situation with oil. Because Saturn is co-witnessing Neptune, probably this is talking to us the lack of oil. Therefore, the prices of oil will go up significantly. That's another prediction I'm making here. Neptune also is the planet of intuition. So one of the remedies really here is to listen to your intuition. It's time to have no judgment. It's time to have a clearer vision and maybe taking notes, writing things down, getting your facts right. Remembering that Mercury is the detrimental ruler of Pisces. So Pisces really can go wrong when, when the facts are not right. Also, Neptune rules glamour and pop culture. So I think probably there's going to be a very famous singer who is going to pass away, or at least a few of them. And I think this is the rebirth of the pop culture. It's going to be changing quite significantly. And how I imagine that to happen is that songs are going to be more connected to individuality, sex, bravery, and inviting people to stand up rather than these love songs and so forth, which was very typical, to be frank, with Neptune in Pisces. I think it's going to be a little bit more on the wild side, or more encouraging to accept individuality and to become you somehow. Also, I feel like with this shift, there is the cultural differences and indifferences are going to be quite a major topic. With Neptune also, we receive messages, typically through dreams. But also, these are the social media messages too, by the way. So those are going to be changing. Probably, these Twitter and all this type of stuff, how we message to each other is going to be changing. Also, I feel like because Neptune is the representation of abusers, people will be accused of certain type of things, such as politicians, artists, and so forth, such as, I don't know, this politician is a bully, or this politician has abused someone, and there is going to be a scandal about it, most likely. Also, I would say that with this Neptune, one of the questions which will pop up in the psychological industry is how much social media is actually affecting your mental well-being. And as I said, I think Neptune in the sign of Aries, on one hand, will be definitely a major challenge, because oneness versus individuality. How can I be one with others when I'm trying to focus on my individuality? I think also this is going to talk to us about the dissolving of political structures. Just like Pluto is trying to get in the sign of Capricorn, now Neptune is joining the picture and trying to kind of dissolve, getting the veil off of certain type of politicians and CEOs. On a personal level, this is telling you that you are your worst enemy. And stop blaming others for your failures and all those type of things. This is telling you to look into the mirror. Now, Neptune is the planet of ocean, so it is kind of like a reflection of the self when you look into it. But often, a little bit of a wave comes around and the picture you see is actually getting distorted. So again, you are not seeing the self clearly. And sometimes what it tells us is that we have to calm down, or we have to wait for the water to calm down to start seeing a better version of ourselves. You know what? Most likely because there is this confusion with Neptune on it and so forth, we're not going to see exactly clearly everything until 2026 February. All of a sudden, all this information about 25 and 24 will be revealed probably in 2026. Also, with Neptune, it's very easy to be empathetic and compassionate. And then what happens is that you become a pushover and people just start walking all over you. And maybe you want to be seeing that as well in your natal chart, whether you've got the tendency to do that. Or you end up going completely different way. And that would be an indication of lack of empathy or lack of compassion at all, because I don't necessarily care. And Saturn is co-witnessing Neptune. So to balance out Saturn, which is Saturn and Neptune, they are natural enemies in a way. Obviously, one is reality, the other one is the la-la land. So how to bring the two fields together? So probably we're going to see in the world, unfortunately, again, people being divided. Oh, I feel sorry for X, Y, and the other one says, oh, no, you deserved it. And then let them get hung up or something like that. And probably this is going to be connected to world leaders. As I said, Neptune is one of the planets that rules politicians overall. Now, when I feel like it's going to be quite intensified is one hand during the Pisces lunar eclipse, which is happening on September 17th, 2024. So that's when we're going to start seeing things a little bit clearer, even though Neptune is not going to be on anaretic degree anymore, but it is going to be conjuncting this lunar eclipse. So that will get highlighted there quite a lot. And I think the other period when it's going to be very intense is March 2025, because Venus is going to be retrograde. And then Venus goes into the sign of, it's going to be retrograde, and Mercury is going to be retrograde around that time as well, almost at the same time. So that's going to be quite an exciting period as well. So also Neptune is connected to water and ocean, so probably the ocean life is going to be quite significant. And now I'm going to go a little bit more on the historical side. Oh, one other thing, Neptune is actually about inflation as well. Now, I'm going to make a statement. When Neptune is in water signs, typically the inflation is not that extremely high. And you might be telling me, Victor, you are crazy. Well, let's see what happens when Neptune moves into the sign of Aries. Believe me, the inflation is going to be super intense. I went back in history and I looked at the inflation rates, and it was fluctuating. So, for example, when Neptune was in the sign of Scorpio between 1956 to 1970, the inflation rate started with 0.37, and then by 1970 it went up to 5.63. And the highest inflation rate there was 6.2 in 1969. But anyway, I don't want to talk about inflations as much. It looks to me that inflation rate, especially maybe it's dropping a little bit, or it's going to get regulated, especially after July when Neptune goes retrograde. But when Neptune is in fire signs, it's mega high. It's mega high. So the last time Neptune was in fire signs was in 1970s onwards in the sign of Sagittarius, and the inflation rate went up extremely high. Or when you just look at, the history, 1956 and 1970, that's Scorpio. 56, it started with Disneyland, and then 70, it ended up pretty much with porn. Then 1974, it started with spirituality, and it ended up as a religious massacre. And we're talking about Jonestown and Guyana here. And then 1998, 2012, Neptune in Aquarius, it started with the widespread of usage of internet and the Microsoft 98 and the iPad, and then it ended with an internet protest blackout. So what I'm trying to say here is that it's worth actually looking at what happened in 2012, because that might be giving us an indication of what is coming to an end. one thing that comes to my mind is actually just one to mention. I'm not going to give you a history lesson here, but Gangnam Style. And that became a major hit there. Yeah, just one thing I wanted to kind of mention there. Yeah, what else I wanted to talk to you about now, because Saturn is also co-witnessing Neptune. Saturn is the shortage. So usually what happens is that the product Saturn is actually lacking. It's out of the favor of the public. So just think about the Piscean products, and that on one hand is like petroleum, for example, but the oil, as I mentioned, or something to do with it represents the shoe industry and petroleum and so forth. So and Saturn is so connected, by the way, to fashion as well. Each year something becomes more popular, like with the Saturnian periods, like what happened in 30, 60, or 90 years before, that somehow comes back. And because Neptune is the planet of glamour and Saturn is connected to fashion as well, so probably we're going to see a major shift with those as well. Now, I don't want to, necessarily talk about so much of a politic, but Saturn Neptune is always connected to Russia. So with this 29-degree, it's going to be very interesting to see. So the last time the Saturn Neptune cycle started was in 1989, and that was actually the fall of Russia and the breakup of Soviet Union. And then 1999, Putin, when the Saturn Neptune squared each other, Putin became the prime minister. And then we had the 2006-2007 opposition between Saturn and Neptune. And that was a time of increasing dissent by those who protested against Putin's new policies. And then 2015-16, Russia is basically back on the world map. So this will be interesting to see with the Neptune being on 29-degree on Saturnian territory, how things are going to be changing and shifting in Russia. But with Neptune, just to summarize, it's about being avoidant, being in denial. Sometimes it's a little bit mellow. Neptune is the blind spot in our chart, the blind faith that you need to be seeing. This would talk to you about also feeling weak. I mean, Neptune is connected to diseases and epidemics as well. My big problem with this Neptune being on 29-degree, and I don't wish to scare anyone, but on the 6th of May, we have got the Saturn-Pluto semi-square coming up. So this 29-degree of Neptune can bring up some epidemics as well, unfortunately. And this might be water-related. Hopefully, let's hope I'm not right with that, okay? Because I don't want that. But also I mentioned with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that I'm expecting some chaos in travel industries. So it might be something connected to shipping, actually, on that anerotic degree in the sign of Pisces. So guys, this is my interpretation on this upcoming exciting period, I would say. So I hope it helps, and then if it does, please press like, subscribe to the channel, give a thumb up, check out my courses, sign up on my YouTube membership program. Have a good one. Bye-bye.